If you have been in the express entry pool for months, or maybe you are just starting your Canadian journey and you are feeling overwhelmed, this video is for you. So this is the page where you can find the express entry draws, and I'm going to link this page down below as well. So on this page is where you can find all the express entry draws. Today's date that I talk to you, it is June 23rd. On this date, the last draw that has happened is June 12th. So on June 12th, the last invitation that happened was from the Canadian Experience class section. Got a total of 3,000 invitations to apply. The last draw before that was June 10th, which is provincial nomination, which a total of 125 draws. So pretty much based on what I've seen with provincial nomination, 277, provincial nomination 125, provincial nomination 511. Because I can see that the numbers are this low, there's a high possibility that they are pulling everyone with provincial nomination and giving them invitation to apply. That's possible based on what I am seeing, as they really don't have any reason why they would just take 125 people only, and before they were taking 511, for example, 400 plus 825. It's very possible they're taking everybody. Now you can see for French language down here, since March they selected 7,500 people. So since that huge French draw, there haven't been any more, and they went as low as 779 points for a person who has French ability higher than 7. Now, what is this saying to you? If you can take time to learn French, that could be a way for you to get selected out of the pool right now. No, I know what you're thinking. Wow, I need to learn an entire language to move to Canada? But that's up to you anyway. You have education occupations where they selected 1,000 people. Based on how standard I'm seeing these numbers, French speaking, you can see many people are going in the French pool and are getting selected with really low numbers, 410. That's all. Then all the other pathways is more than 500 points and over. Here you can see they really needed education persons. They just decide, let's take 1,000 people. That's very standard to take one specific number. And then here again you can see it as well. For health and social services, 500 people flat. Nothing more, nothing less. These flat numbers you're seeing is because they're choosing how many people they take out of the pool. That's why it's so standard. You can see it for yourself. That is why they're doing that. There's no way they just happen to hit 3,000 people exactly. And then you have these that are just random numbers. It's because I'm pretty sure they're just picking everybody with provincial nomination. So how do you improve your score so that you might be in one of these sections? So first of all, if you're not in one of these areas, then provincial nomination is your other option, is to add that on your application. So with provincial nomination, it differs from province to province. Every different province has a separate provincial nomination program to itself. I've spoken about Prince Edward Island's provincial nomination program, so if you want to see that video, I'll leave it right here. You can actually check it out and see what it's like, and if you live in Prince Edward Island, that definitely is an option for you. Okay, so the next page that I want you to go on is this page, and I'll also link this down below as well. So on this page, it tells you how exactly you would calculate your CRS score, the Comprehensive Ranking System score. First of all, you need to know that you have your core/human capital factors, then you have spouse or partner factors, then you have skill transferability factors, and then fourth of all, you have additional points. No, the more of this that you have, the more points you'll get. And just know that everything you have, you need to be able to prove it as well in your application. First thing that they show on this page is that, hey, we no longer give points for job offers. So basically, you having a job offer doesn't significantly impact your application. So whether you have a job offer or not, it really doesn't matter. So first one is core/human capital factors. So what we have here is factors which would be under human capital. It would be age, your level of education, language abilities, and your work experience. Those are like the core basics that are required. So there are two ways that you can apply. You can apply with a partner or you can apply without a partner. If you're applying with a partner, your scores combines as one score and is calculated together in total to combine to make 1 point. So you can decide to either apply separately, you and your spouse apply separately, or apply together to make your points higher. So here we have age, 100 points is given. You can see the numbers here. I'm just going to say with a spouse how much the points are. And I know now you can see that the points with a spouse is actually lower than the points without a spouse, but as we go down further you'll see why. So these are the points right here. You can look at it and then you can go down to the points breakdown in more specific details. So you can see here anybody under 17 years old is 0 points. Over 18 years old, the points increase, especially between this peak age group of 20 to 29, and then it kind of just start decreasing after that. So that's for age. Then you have level of education. So if your level of education is, for example, only high school, is 28 points. 1 year degree, then you see the amount of points, and it just breaks it down based on if you have a bachelor's, and this kind of shows you how much points you can increase by based on these factors. So if you were to go and get a second degree, like a diploma for example, right here, then you'll see that it's not much points compared to if you just had a bachelor's degree, which gives you 112 points. And then a master's degree gives you 124, PhD 100, and master's 126, PhD 140 points. And that's just how points are calculated for these. Then you have language. You'll see the points here based on what your score totals to, and you can just go through that. And then here again for Canadian experience class, once it passes 5 years, it doesn't matter how much more experience you have. So once you pass 5 years of work experience, it doesn't matter. So ideally hit five years worth of work experience to get the maximum amount of points possible. So that's for that section. And then you have spouse or common law factors. So spouse or common law gives you level of education. This is where you add on these points based on your spouse's qualifications, and you just get the details again down here, versus this is not telling you much. So you go down here and you get the information. So spouse points are added based on these factors. So that is why it wasn't calculated above, and that's for spouse qualifications. And then we move on to skill transferability factors, and this is where you can get decent amount of points added on. So with Canadian work experience and a post-secondary degree, you immediately get 50 additional points. With good, strong language ability and a post-secondary degree, 50 points are added as well. Foreign work experience with good language ability and work experience, you get 50 additional points, and there are ways to just add up your points based on these factors, and then you move down again, and you can see like the details here. And if you're confused whether you would be counted for any of these factors, you aren't sure, then there's actually a calculator where you can enter your personal information and you can see if you are qualified or not. So I'm going to do like a sample one towards the end of this video just to show you what the points can amount to be. Okay, so you can see how the points are distributed at this point. And then the most important part I wanted to show you is this part. It is the additional points. You get points if you have a brother or sister living in Canada. That gives you an additional 15 points. French language skills, that gives you an additional 50 points. Post-secondary education in Canada, that gives you an additional 30 points. And then provincial nomination gives you 600 points. In total, you can get a total of 1,200 points. And half of that point is just from provincial nomination. So provincial nomination is crucial when you want to become a permanent resident, because it's kind of one of the easiest ways to become a permanent resident at this time, but it does has its own requirements. So let me tell you a little bit about the provincial nominations that I can tell you based off the top of my head. The main thing about them is the requirements. So one of them I know about is one in Saskatchewan, where all they want you to do is to finish a college or a university and you're automatically eligible to apply for provincial nomination. Then you have somewhere like Prince Edward Island, where they just want you to get a job after you graduate university or college. Then you would be eligible to apply for provincial nomination. So that's like an example of the eligibility. So it tends to cater a lot towards the people who are already in Canada. So that is why I continue to share content about being an international student in Canada, because that is truly a way where you can apply for permanent residency after finishing school. It is also a way to get more points. Like we've already looked at the points, you can see where if you have a post-secondary education, it's right here, additional 30 points is giving you just from the additional credential area here. So it does cause your points to add up a lot when you have good education, you have good language abilities and things like that. Now, if you have provincial nomination, then you don't need to care about any of this. When you have provincial nomination, it's like a direct pathway to permanent residency, and there are actually some provincial nominations where you don't need to go through express entry at all. You just apply through provincial nomination, and then you get through what you keep seeing on the rounds of invitation. It's provincial nomination. It is a direct pathway to permanent residency, and that's what persons are getting selected through, and those are provided in every province at this time. Some of the easiest provinces that has these things are Saskatchewan and Newfoundland. I have seen where they have some of the best provincial nomination programs out there that makes the transition a lot easier, especially for someone who is studying. You're an international student and you want to transition. It does make your life so much easier. But that's for that. Next thing I want to show you is how to calculate your score. If you are seeing these scores but you're not sure, am I eligible for this? How much is this score? Let's do an example of what your score could be. So here it is on this screen. Check your score. You have the CRS calculator. That's what we're going to use. So here it is. It asks you for a couple of questions. You answer those questions and it will give you a score at the end. So let's do that together and see what score we can come up with. And I'm just going to do a random example. I probably just consider myself, and let's say it was before I traveled to Canada, what my points would add up to be at that time. So we're going to say marital status. I'm going to do a singular application, so one person, and what a score for one individual would be. So you have marital status, never married, single. How old are you? I'm going to say you are. So we're simulating before coming to Canada, 21. What is your level of education? So before, let's say you have a two-year program in a college. Yes. Have you earned a Canadian degree or certificate? Let's say no, you haven't earned any Canadian certificate. So it kind of show you how you can get more points, like saying yes to these questions and just see how the points differ. So official language, so less than 2 years old, let's say yes. Which language test did you take? Let's say you took IELTS. Enter your test score. So for speaking, we are simulating here, me before coming here. Simulation, I'm going to put, that would be my language score. You hear how I speak. My language score would be about 8.5, 8.5, 9. Listening skills, we're going to say 8. Reading, we're going to say, let's bring it down a little bit. And then writing, let's bring it down below this high number because this is going to give you like the highest. Let's go to 7. Do you have any other language results? No. What experience do you have? And then you can see it asks you for your skilled work within these specific categories. So for these categories, we can say yes, we have more than 5 years of work experience. In the last 10 years, how many total years of... Okay, so if I have more than 5 years of work experience, I would have to be older. So let's say, let me imagine a different person. Let me change the age. Because if you have 5 years of experience, you finished school when you were 18, for example, maybe 19. So you would be 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. You're like 24 now. So you're 24. Alright, let's do that instead. So let's say we have the more than the 5 years because ideally apply when you have more than the 5 years. In the last 10 years, how many total years of work experience do you have? In the last 10 years, we have over 3 years in these specific areas. And then do you have a certificate of qualification from a Canadian province? You're going to say no. Do you have a valid job offer by an LMIA? We're going to say no. Do you have a nomination certificate from a province? We're going to say no, which loses you an entire 600 points. Do you have a spouse? Have at least a brother in Canada or a sister in Canada who is a permanent resident or citizen, and a brother or sister tells you you guys can be related by blood, adoption, or even just marriage. So it can be a stepbrother, stepsister. Let's say yes. Let's just say that for fun. Your results are here. So I say all express entry candidates get a score out of 1,200 based on all these things, and you can see the points here. So my points came, my age is in the right range, 24. Level of education, I said that I had a 2-year degree only. Official language gave me 127 points. Canadian work experience, 80 points. Did I say I have Canadian work experience? No. In the last, how many foreign work experience do you have? In the last 10 years, how many experience in Canada do you have? None. Okay, let's do that again. Calculate the score once more. Yes, because I want this to be 0, Canadian work experience. Okay, so I have 335 points there, all these points here and there. In total, I have 425 points. So when you get this total, you can head on over to the draw and you can see, first of all, think about, okay, so what route are you going to apply through express entry? Are you a part of the category base? Are you a part of provincial nomination? Because that's currently the only thing that is currently selecting people. No. In terms of points, let's say you are in the healthcare field, then you would need to have more than 500 points because that's what we see last selected. Education here was 479. French, we don't speak any French, let's say, for example, so that wouldn't matter. Based on these categories, there isn't a lot of selections happening in general. Like we can see since January, they haven't selected half of the list of persons who they have on the category based system. Like there's no agriculture selection at all. All I'm seeing is healthcare, you have the education field, provincial nomination, Canadian experience class, and that's kind of it. So what this is saying is ideally you want to be in one of these categories to be selected out of the pool. It is no longer about your score only. Yes, your score is important to have a high enough score to be selected out of the pool, but ultimately your score isn't as important as being eligible in the first place. So ideally you want to be in the healthcare sector, and then you need to fill the requirements for these sectors, which you can, and then you apply for permanent residency. That's pretty much it. And provincial nomination is important as well to have. So what I'm going to do is to go in more details about provincial nomination. I'm going to go into other provinces in future videos. I'm going to mix in international student content with life in Canada content and personal development content. If you want a full checklist, which is kind of a guide on how exactly to apply for permanent residency, I actually have a full guide. It's a download PDF document. You can download it from my description box. You can check it out down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. Subscribe to the channel for more content about immigration, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.